Reich. I work for the Center for Urban Transportation Research, but I'm also the Tampa Bay Clean Cities coordinator housed at the USF's Patel College of Global Sustainability. I'd like to recognize several organizations for helping us make this webcast possible. First is the Center for Urban Transportation Research here at Qatar for arranging the facilities and logistics. Second is the Tampa Bay Clean Cities Coalition at Patel College for Global Sustainability for organizing things. Central Florida Clean Cities for their funding to Tampa Bay in support of a project advancing alternative fuel markets in Florida, a grant which they received from the U.S. Department of Energy Clean Cities program, so we appreciate all of those. Just a couple words about Clean Cities. It's sponsored by the U.S. Department of Energy's Vehicle Technology Program. Clean Cities is a government industry partnership designed to reduce petroleum consumption in the transportation sector. Clean Cities contributes to the energy, environmental, and economic security of the United States by supporting local decisions to reduce our dependence on imported petroleum. Established in 1993 in response to the Energy Policy Act, the partnership provides tools and resources for voluntary, community-centered programs to reduce consumption of petroleum-based fuels. To date, it's estimated that Clean Cities program has helped displace more than 5 billion gallons of petroleum, placed over 500,000 of alternative vehicles in service, and includes nearly 100 local designated coalitions representing over 20,000 stakeholders across the U.S. The goal of the national program is to achieve 2.5 billion gallons of petroleum savings by the year 2020. In Florida, there are currently 6 active coalitions in 41 of Florida's 67 counties. These organizations represent areas that include nearly 80% of Florida's 18.9 million residents. 2 of them have long-standing federal designation, Southeast Florida and Central Florida, and 4 others, Emerald Coast, North Florida, Tampa Bay, and Big Bend, are working hard to promote petroleum reduction in the transportation sector and towards their federal designation. Here is the contact information for those coalitions around the state. And again, you'll be able to download and retrieve this if you want to contact them for further information. I'm pleased to introduce this afternoon, or this morning's presenter, to those of you in the Panhandle and the Central Time Zone. He is from the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services Energy Office. Mr. Matthew Arsenault is a policy analyst for the Energy Office in Tallahassee. Matt graduated from Florida State University with a Bachelor's of Political Science in 2010 and spent time as a legislative aide in the Florida House of Representatives before joining the Energy Office in April of 2011. At the Energy Office, Matthew has held several positions and has been charged with managing a diverse portfolio of roughly $6 million worth of clean energy grants spread across 20-plus projects. Since November 2012, however, Matthew has been serving as a policy analyst while still managing several projects, including the Natural Gas Fuel Fleet Vehicle Rebate Program and the Bioagricultural Study. We're pleased that he's able to make this presentation and to answer some questions at the end of his presentation about the rebate program. So, Matthew, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, Steve, thank you very much. I want to say thanks to everyone at Qatar who's helping make this webinar possible today, including Steve and Stephanie Lewis for her help as well. As Steve mentioned, my name is Matt Arsenault. I'm with the Florida Office of Energy. So I want to talk about our natural gas fuel fleet vehicle rebate program today. Before I get in-depth on the rebate program, I just want to talk about our office a little bit. Our office joined the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, or FDACS, July 1st, 2011. Prior to that, we have a fairly interesting history. We started in some form or another back in the 70s. More recently, we were in the Governor's Energy Office. That was back in early 2011 when I joined the office. During that time period, we were a grant management office. We focused almost entirely on managing recovery dollar grant projects, clean energy grant projects. Since that time, and since we've moved to DACs, we have rapidly shifted our focus from grant management to energy policy. That's not to say that we don't still have grants and other programs, because we certainly do, and I'm about to talk about one of those with you guys today. So since we've joined FDACs, we've been able to shift our focus to policy, and we've also inherited some of FDAC's previous energy-related programs, such as Farm to Fuel, which is one that some of you guys may be familiar with. So to talk about the natural gas fuel fleet rebate program, first we have to talk about House Bill 579. This was a bill that was passed in the 2013 legislative session. Its House sponsor was Representative Lake Ray. Its Senate sponsor was Senator Simpson. So this bill deals with natural gas fuels. It addresses the licensing and the reporting of natural gas fuels. It also addresses the taxation of those fuels. My favorite part of the bill is Section 17 that creates the natural gas fuel fleet vehicle rebate. On your slide there, you'll see that I posted some language directly from that bill, and that is the stated purpose of the program from the legislation itself. So you'll see the second sentence there states, the purpose of this program is to help reduce transportation costs in the state and encourage freight mobility investments that contribute to the economic growth of the state. So that is something that we keep in mind in the administration of this program, and it's one of our guiding principles in running the program. Program specifics. What is it all about? Who is the money for, and how do you get it? Well, it's a rebate program, so the money has to be expended first. We'll look at your documentation and give you money after the fact. So it's for the purchase or lease of a natural gas fleet vehicle. Those rebates are up to $25,000, but not to exceed half of the incremental cost. And you'll see the definition of incremental cost there on your screen. That is basically the difference in price from your equivalent diesel or gasoline-powered vehicle between the diesel or gasoline-powered vehicle to the natural gas vehicle price. So half of that difference will be covered by the rebate, up to $25,000. Additionally, conversions to natural gas fleet vehicles are covered under the rebate. Same thing with them, up to $25,000 in rebate, not to exceed half of the conversion cost. Additionally, eligible vehicles must have been placed into service on or after July 1st, 2013. You'll see placed into service in quotations. That's a term that was in the bill, and it's been defined as if you're applying for the rebate of a purchase of a natural gas fleet vehicle, that vehicle had to be purchased on or after July 1st, 2013. Same thing with the lease and conversion. If you're applying for the rebate for the conversion of a natural gas vehicle, that conversion had to be made on or after July 1st, 2013. Additional program information. So the funding of the program, the bill allows for $6 million a year across 5 years for the program. Of course, that funding is based on legislative allocation. The $6 million pot is split into two sub-pots, one for private or commercial industries, and the other for governmental applicants. So it's a 60-40 split, with the 60% pot being $3.6 million for the commercial side, the 40% of the pot, or $2.4 million, being reserved for the governmental applicants. Rebates are distributed on a first-come, first-served basis, and they were for this year they started being accepted on January 7th. An important thing to remember is the economic data that we're going to be collecting along with these applications as well. That's going to be a very important component of the rebate. We need to make sure that we are capturing the economic effect that this rebate program is having. One, because it's just very good to know that if your program is being successful in meeting its goals or not. And also, it's going to be compiled into a report that's going to be presented to the governor and the legislature so that they have the most accurate information. They're able to measure the return on investment of these taxpayer dollars when looking at the program in the coming years. So the review process, which is what we are sort of right in the middle of right now, according to the rule for the program, our office has 60 days to review a rebate. After the review, we're going to send a letter out to each applicant, letting them know basically the status of their rebate. Was it approved? Was it incomplete? If so, what documentation are they missing? How can they make their application complete? We're coming up to our first 60-day kind of landmark date. That's actually going to be here in a few days. So we've been successful so far in meeting our 60-day deadline, and I foresee us continuing to meet that deadline. So each application will be reviewed by at least 2 staff members from our office alone. In most cases, it's going to have 4 separate sets of eyes on it. So it's a fairly robust review process. We're very comfortable that we're going to leave no stone overturned, and we are definitely going to catch anything that needs to be caught. If an application is incomplete, then the applicant will be made aware of this through the letter, as I mentioned, and they'll also have the chance to make their application whole. How this is done is they are told what the application is missing, and they get the chance to reapply with that missing information. Of course, this does lose their original place in the first-come, first-served line. They will be put in the back of the line, but they still have a chance to be eligible for a rebate. So after our office's review, the rebates are sent to the FDAC's Financing and Accounting Office for their review, and then it's finally sent to DFS, Department of Financial Services, who actually issues the rebate. So where are we now? As I said, we're currently reviewing the received applications. We're currently at 329 received applications, though I don't know how many of you were at our office on January 7th. It was a fairly busy day. We got 226 of those applications on that morning. So that was a very interesting day, and those of you that were there, I think you would agree. So year 2 of the program begins July 1st, 2014. As I mentioned before, the first year of the program is a short one. It's only 6 months because it started in January 7th and it ends at the end of July. So the future years of the program will be a full year. For more information and any forms or any news that you need about the program, you can visit the link there at the bottom of the slide. And this is what our website looks like when you click that link. So this is the Office of Energy's main site on the FDAC's website. So this is the website that you see when you go to our website. You'll see the ribbon there to the left with links to several of our different programs. The circled one, if this is going to work. The circled item right here is the link for the natural gas fuel fleet vehicle rebate. When you click that, you're taken to this website. This is the program website. This is where you get all your information for the program. There's a description of the program here. Something of note that you guys might be interested in is this item here, this document. This is a list of our received applications. So when you click that, you'll be taken to a PDF, and that's going to list every application that we've received. It's going to let you know who the applicant is, whether they're government or private, how much they've requested on their application form, and the status of their application, whether it's been reviewed, whether it's incomplete, whether it's pending, so on and so forth. So viewing that document, if you're thinking about applying but you're worried that you might be too late, that document is one that will help you kind of gauge where the money's at, how much demand there is on your side of the program, whether you're public or private. Also on the top right here, located in this red circle, is the application forms. As Stephanie mentioned, you can go ahead and download a copy of the application forms by clicking the white paper icon on the top right-hand side of your screen. I'm going to be covering the application in a little more depth here in a moment, so if you want to go ahead and download a copy, you can do that several ways, through our website or through the white paper icon in the top right. So once you do download the application, this is going to be your first page. This page is fairly simple, fairly straightforward. It's just collecting your contact information. One thing I would make sure you get right is the FEIN or your tax ID number. This is an item that we're going to be using in several different ways. We're going to, A, use it to get you paid, which is fairly important. And B, we're going to use it to figure out where to pay you, what address you registered in the Florida system. The rest is fairly straightforward stuff. Down towards the bottom here is the affirmation that everything on your application is true and correct and that your vehicle complies with the EPA emission standards. Pretty easy. On to page 2, which is also fairly straightforward. This is just the notary page. Very basic stuff. Just, get it signed in front of the notary and you'll be good to go on this page. This bottom half of the page is for our office's use only. Please don't fill that out. That's what we use to determine the final rebate amount. Now we get into the meat of it, starting on the 3rd page. We ask you for the type of natural gas vehicle investment. This is basically us asking you, did you purchase, lease, or convert your vehicle, and are you a government or are you a commercial entity? So that's how we identify you. That's how we apply your rebate amount to the correct pot of money. This is all data that we're compiling as well. We can tell you how many conversions were done as opposed to how many purchases were made. So in the next box, the type of natural gas fuel system, this is also data that's going to be captured by our office. We're very interested to know these numbers. We want to know how many CNG systems were installed compared to propane or whatever other natural gas fuel systems are out there. We also are interested to know if yours is a dedicated or a biofuel system. So you're filling out this information is very helpful to us. On the final box, this is the information for your specific vehicle that this application is requesting a rebate for. So here we have vehicle make, model, vehicle year, VIN number, all basic vehicle information. We use the VIN number. This is how we ensure that no vehicle is awarded multiple rebates. So our office, even in years 3 or 4 or 5 of the program, will be able to look back to previous years, search vehicles by VIN number, and make sure no one's double dipping. Page 4 of the rebate, this is where you would fill out your conversion information or your purchase or lease information. Please note that the top 2 boxes, you're only going to fill out one of those top 2 boxes. If you are asking for a rebate for a vehicle conversion, you're only going to fill out the top box. If you're asking for a rebate for a vehicle purchase or lease, you're only going to fill out the second box. So please make sure to only fill out the box that corresponds to whatever work that you have done or whatever purchase you have made. The supporting documentation, the 3rd box on the page, is probably one of the most important items on the application. Unfortunately, it's probably also the most often incorrect part of the application. So on the application itself, the page we're looking at, those are just check boxes, and that's mainly for the applicant's sake to ensure that they've attached everything that they need. So as you go down the list, you need to check off and make sure that you've attached the corresponding items to your application. Then the very bottom part, the invoice and the proof of payment, is the same case. You're just going to check those boxes, certifying that you have, in fact, included those 2 pieces of documentation. I want to talk about the specific items of supporting documentation, and we'll just start from the top. So first is a legible photocopy of the purchase or lease vehicles or converted vehicles, valid and current registration. You're going to need to include a copy of that, and please make sure it's current when you submit it to us. We've run into a problem where some folks have submitted to us an application that includes a photocopy of an expired registration. Unfortunately, we're not able to give money to a vehicle that is not current on its registration. So please ensure that any registrations that you guys submit to us are current, at least current when you submit it to us. Next, we have a copy of the VIN number. After that, we have the photograph section. So there's 3 different photographs, but keep in mind these only apply to vehicle conversions. If you are applying for a vehicle purchase rebate, you don't need to include any photographs. The conversions, however, do need to include a photograph of a location of the VIN number on the vehicle. Usually it's the windshield VIN number. Also a photograph of the converted vehicle itself, just a picture of the vehicle as a whole. And the 3rd and final one is a picture of the tank itself. So the natural gas tank that has been installed on your vehicle is the last photograph we would need in the case of a vehicle conversion. Then going down the Environmental Protection Agency Certificate of Conformity, this applies to every vehicle. Every vehicle needs to attach this document. We've run into problems where folks have attached some item from the EPA's website, but not necessarily the Certificate of Conformity. Unfortunately, we are only able to accept that very specific document, the Certificate of Conformity from the EPA. So be sure that's what you're attaching for the EPA documentation. We can't accept anything else. It's this one very specific piece of documentation that's required by rule. So next is documentation of the equivalent diesel or gasoline vehicle costs. This is for purchases only. This is going to be a tool for our office to use to verify how you came up with your vehicle rebate calculation. So for example, if you give us a piece of documentation that shows that your diesel equivalent was $50,000, but the natural gas vehicle that you purchased was $70,000, that's how we figure out the incremental cost, and that's how we figure out how much of a rebate you're eligible for. And then finally, a valid and current weights and measures permit. That's for taxi cab companies only. This is required. This is something that was brought up by the FDAC's Measures and Standards Office. So we appreciate them bringing that to our attention because we certainly don't want to give a rebate to anyone not in compliance with our own agency standards. Moving on to the last page, this is the economic data that I was talking about. Again, a very important page. So we give you some calculations there, some conversions there to use in your own economic data calculations. If those conversions don't help you at all, don't feel obligated to use them. That's just something that we kind of were asked to put on there just kind of as an FYI. If anyone was looking for any kind of conversion, they're available on that page to use. If you have your own math that you want to use, that's fine as well. So you see the three main boxes: the total dollar value of investment in alternative fuels as a result of the project for this program, the projected amount of gasoline or diesel saved as a result of this program, and the projected amount of money saved as a result of this program. I think those are all fairly straightforward. I'm hoping most of these calculations are ones that applicants have already done just in their own research in making the move to natural gas. So I hope I'm not asking folks to reinvent the wheel. I'm hoping in a majority of cases this is math that applicants have already done as a part of their own research. And the narrative, the empty box at the bottom, is kind of where you do remember in your math homework, you got to show your work. This is where you do that for us, and you also can attach a separate page if you'd rather show it, if you have a spreadsheet or however you want to show it to us. So that's my presentation for the day. I hope I covered most of your questions regarding the application. I think we're going to hand it back over to Stephen to facilitate the Q&A session.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Matthew. Steph, do you want to walk folks through the Q&A process, or you want me to do that?
I can do that.
Great.
Okay. To use the Q&A manager, simply use that Q&A button in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. Type the question that you want to, the question or the comment, I should say. Click Ask, and the presenter will be able to, or the moderator, Steve, will be able to see your question. So I think it looks like, Steve, we do have already several questions in the Q&A.
We do. And I'll keep folks anonymous. And the first question is for Matthew: can one rebate include multiple vehicles purchased? These vehicles would be purchased on one purchase order. So can one application be used for multiple vehicles that were purchased at the same time?
Right. This is an issue that was brought up in our rulemaking process. The answer to that is no. Each application is for one separate vehicle. There's several reasons for doing this. One of them being, if an entity had, let's say, 20 conversions that they did, and they submitted all of those conversions on one application, but there was a problem with the paperwork for one of those conversions, whatever that problem might have been. So you have one application showing 19, great, fully documented conversions, but one is missing something. We wanted to avoid a situation where everyone had to put all of their eggs in one basket. So under the current system, it makes a lot more paperwork for me looking at 20 separate applications. But in that situation that we're trying to avoid, at least the applicant will have 19 approved applications and only one denied, instead of, all of their eggs in one basket, they're all denied.
Okay, very good. That seemed pretty clear, but if it's not to the questioner, please resubmit a clarifying question. Matt, I've got another question here that asks, are there any incentive programs that are being proposed in this year's legislative session that your office is aware of?
As far as natural gas specific incentives, I haven't seen anything. I can tell you that House Bill 579, which is the bill that created the rebate program, it has an ongoing incentive apart from the rebate. It created a sales tax moratorium on the sale of natural gas fuels. I believe that runs through 2018, so it's a 5-year moratorium on the sales tax of natural gas fuels. That's a huge incentive for folks looking to make the move to this bridge fuel.
No, that's an excellent incentive. We have another question. This is great. This is why we're here. On the economic data, when it asks for capital investment, do you include your fueling station costs and any other vehicles you have purchased already?
Yeah, a lot of the economic data portion is, when you're showing your work, you kind of show us, your interpretation of what the question is asking. In the boxes on page 5 of the rebate, we're asking for specific numbers, and yes, I would include your infrastructure investment, your total fleet investment. I would give me the whole total of your investment.
Okay, thank you. Here's a very relevant and interesting question. How much funding, Matthew, is left in the current year for the public sector?
I guess that's the $1 million question, I guess.
Or the $2.4 million question.
Exactly, you got it. Someone's been looking at the website. If you do look at the website, you will see that the public sector is underprescribed, especially when you compare it to the private sector. If you do the math on that document on our website that lists all of the applicants and how much they're asking for, I think, last I checked anyway, the demand on the public side was between $500,000 and $600,000 out of a $2.4 million pot. So as part of the purpose of this webinar is me to ask you, if you know of any public entities that would qualify for this rebate, please, please, please direct them to me, direct them to our website, tell them yourself. But the last thing that I want for this program is to leave money on the table. I want anyone that is eligible for specifically this first year of the program to please apply. That's the purpose of this program, is to get the money out there, and that's what I'm looking to do. So if you know any public applicant that, even if they might be eligible, have them call me and I'll talk it out with them and we'll figure out if they are.
Well, Matthew, and again, that's why I appreciate so much Clean Cities coalitions around the state and other organizations and other listservs that push this out because we want to make sure that the public sector potential participants were getting the word that there are still some funds available. And we hope that the tutorial that you gave is also instructional to our private sector partners. On that point, if the $2.4 million for the public sector is not all used in fiscal 2014, will it roll over to 2015 on July 1, do you know?
So this is probably the second most popular question after how much money is left. So basically the way the law is written right now, money doesn't roll anywhere. So if there's money left on the table in one pot, it doesn't roll to the other pot. And if there's money left on the table in a given year, it does not roll to the next year. This is just the way the language of the bill was written. So it's our office's hope that we're able to expend all this money this year. We don't want to leave anything on the table.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. I certainly appreciate that. The next question, Matthew, is you mentioned, Matthew, that we can use our own conversion calculations, but can we use therms versus pounds?
If that is how you guys do your calculations, I'm fine with that. The most important, I think, economic data that we're trying to collect is money invested in natural gas, the amount of gasoline or diesel fuel that you're offsetting, and the amount of money that you project you will save. So however you get to those calculations, I think we'd be okay with.
Okay. Got a question on the economic data section. And I don't know, Steph, if it's possible to pull that back up on the screen for folks. And Matthew, I don't know which slide that would be. It says the first block, does the, quote, total value of investment in alternative fuels as a result of this project, unquote, include infrastructure such as fueling staging and maintenance facilities, and or the amount of vehicles that will be purchased. I'm not sure what this number should include.
Yeah, we've gotten that a lot. I understand that it's a more vaguely worded question, so I've just been telling folks to include a figure that represents your investment because of this program, for example. So if you only bought 3 vehicles, but you bought them because this investment and other investments were available, you'd include that. However, if you totally revamped your fleet and put up a station or 2 because this rebate enabled you to do that, we want to know that as well.
I understand, and to the submitter of that question, please resubmit if we misinterpreted that one. Question: this appears to be a federally funded rebate program. Is it? And what is the impact when the original bus was purchased with another federal agency's funds? Does this bus qualify for this rebate? That's a great one.
Yeah, this is actually a state-funded rebate. So these are state dollars that we're funding. We haven't ran into a situation where a bus or any kind of vehicle was paid for by a separate grant or anything like that. So that would be a unique situation. I suppose we'd have to take a look at the purchase documentation and just vet that the way we would vet any other application, and that would be more of a as it comes basis. I don't want to make any sweeping generalizations now because we haven't seen one, but I would certainly take a look at it if you wanted to submit an application.
Yeah, because typically for the transit agencies that are with us today, there are significant portions of the capital investment that are covered by the Federal Transit Administration and some by the State Department of Transportation as well. Mm-hmm. So perhaps that's something we can talk through offline and maybe get some guidance out once you guys have had time to sort of go through that.
Sure, be happy to.
Because I think there's a real potential there based on some other work that we're doing here at the center and with Clean Cities for that you may likely see a lot of requests for transit vehicles. Was there any discussion as the legislation was moving through, do you know, Matt, about incentives for building fueling infrastructure?
Yeah, so I wasn't involved on the legislative side as the legislation was being discussed and crafted, but I have heard that it was discussed at some point, and I don't know how true this is. This is more through the grapevine. I heard they were considering a program for infrastructure. I don't know if it would be rebates, but some sort of infrastructure incentive. And they were also discussing, a type of program that we have now, investment on the vehicle side. When you're dealing with the pot of money that we have, I'm personally glad that they decided to go on the vehicle side because you get much more bang for your buck, obviously. A natural gas vehicle is much cheaper than a natural gas fueling station. So we're able to reach more people, more businesses, more municipalities. The program just has a much wider impact by incentivizing the vehicle side of things at this funding level. As you guys know, $6 billion wouldn't go real far on the fueling infrastructure side, but, you know.
No, that would cover maybe, well, anyway, no, it wouldn't go very far.
Not a lot. So we're seeing it affect and reach a lot of people by using that money on the vehicle side. So I'm glad it worked out that way.
Thank you, Matthew. Our next question is another interesting one. Is there any way to share the economic data submitted by a government entity from an approved application? I'm specifically interested in the projected amount of gasoline/diesel saved as a result of the vehicle purchase or lease. Now, Matthew, if I could interject here before you answer that, if you need some help with that, if you are close to or within one of those clean cities regions, I would encourage you to reach out, and those folks would be more than happy to help you with that conversion. But go ahead, Matthew.
I'm sorry, Stephen, could you repeat just the first part of the question?
The first part of the question is, your office, is there any way that your office could share data submitted by a government entity from an approved application, specifically interested in the displacement? Okay,
I guess they're asking for help filling out their application. They want to see an example of an approved application. Yeah, these applications are public record. You know, if you want to take a look at an application, it's certainly within your right to do so. Get in contact with me via email or call me after, and we can talk about it and talk about what exactly you're looking for, and I'll set you up with whatever you need to submit a good application.
Okay, great. This question is, do we have any word on the 50-cent per gallon federal excise tax rebate? And I think that's an extension of a program that expired, that was extended retroactively in the budget deal a year ago. I'll let you, do you know anything about that, Matt?
No, I haven't. You might even know a little bit more than me on that one, Steve. I haven't heard anything about that for a while. I think you're correct in saying it was part of the expiring, but I haven't heard any of the latest news.
Yeah, there's a proposal to reinstitute it, but I'm not sure that anything's going anywhere up there these days, to be honest. So I'm sorry, I don't have any additional information on that for the participant. Here's another question, and this is great. This is why we're here. So I'll try to hustle up here because we're 12:44. As a government agency, does the vehicle need to be in service versus purchased to qualify this year for the rebate?
Yeah, it needs to comply with the definition that I talked about earlier of placed into service. So that means, again, if you're applying for the purchase rebate, that vehicle must have been purchased on or after July 1st, 2013. If you're applying for a conversion rebate, that vehicle needs to have been converted on or after July 1st, 2013.
Another question. We are in the, quote, pending, unquote, status. Do you have a time frame for the completed application review?
A lot of that depends on where you are in the line, as it were. You know, we receive applications on a first-come, first-served basis. That's also how we review them. We are making our way through, and as I mentioned, we're on a 60-day timeline. We're going to meet it. We're going to meet that 60-day timeline for that glut, that first day's worth of applications. So everything after that should be fairly quick and easy. It's just, you know, when you get all the applications on the front end, and the vast majority of them on day one, it slows down the process a little bit, and that everything is very front-loaded, but we're making our way through that, and unfortunately, I don't know who the applicant is, and I can't really give a date certain to anyone. All I can really say is that we're making really good progress, and just be checking our that document on our website every week. We try to update it every Friday afternoon, and you'll see, every week we're making pretty good progress.
And just for the audience's information, we're trying to field the questions on a first-come, first basis, so hang in there. We're going to get to everyone, I'm sure, in the time that we have. Another one, Matt, if we purchase our trucks from the General Motors dealer and they do the conversions, will that be treated as a purchase or a conversion?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a very common question that we've had. That, if I'm understanding it correctly, that would be a purchase. So if you are buying a vehicle from a dealer or from any entity, and you are paying for a vehicle, and the vehicle that you receive is a natural gas vehicle, that's a purchase. It doesn't matter if that dealership, for example, or if that OEM manufacturer is doing that conversion for you. If you're paying for a vehicle and the vehicle that you receive at the end of the transaction is a natural gas vehicle, that's a purchase. I would consider a conversion a vehicle that you already owned and had possession of, and then you took it to, whoever's going to service the conversion, install the kit, so on and so forth. That would be a conversion. But the example you bring up, I would definitely consider a purchase.
Very, very clear distinction. Excellent description, Matthew. Okay, back to the application. The last item on page 4, invoice and proof of payment, was not covered. As proof of payment, is a copy of the check sufficient, or does a bank statement need to be added as well?
Excellent question. Thank you very much for bringing this up. This is something I should have covered in the presentation. This is an excellent question.
Yes, you should have, Matt, but I was not going to point that out to you.
Shame on me. No, so a copy of a check, if you just write out a check and make a copy of it, we're not going to be able to accept that. We have to have, what we're looking for basically is proof that the money was expended. So if I write a check to Steve, for example, and make a copy of it, that doesn't prove that I gave the check to Steve and that he deposited it. All that proves is that I wrote a check and made a copy of it. That's a pretty simplistic example. I understand these transactions that we're dealing with are a little more complex. But what we're looking for would be a canceled check, i.e. one that shows that it was received or deposited. However you want to show that, whether you want to, give us a screenshot from inside of your bank's website that, shows that the bank stamped it and that it was in fact deposited. However you want to show that. Another item that we've had trouble with is people giving us screenshots from their own internal accounting systems. So, it doesn't matter how complex and how sophisticated your internal accounting system is. Again, that doesn't prove, absolutely that you've expended the money. Not to say anyone would commit fraud, but we have to just, we have to be very careful when we're dealing with taxpayer dollars here. Going into QuickBooks or, whatever software that you guys are using and entering some information in does not prove that money was spent out the door. So unfortunately, we won't be able to, that's good supporting documentation, but that cannot be your proof of purchase or your proof of payment.
Okay, can't be the principal way to satisfy that requirement of proof.
Absolutely, yep.
Okay, will the designated funding in the upcoming years be based off the use from previous years' funding?
That is up to our friends across the street at the legislature. Got to be so careful when you talk about them. I don't know.
I'll give it a stab. I mean,
Sure.
Is it true that this program, while authorized for several years, and the tax exemption for the road tax is law, it's subject to an annual appropriation each year of the program's existence by the legislature, which could be any amount they decide?
Yes, I think that's a great way to put it. So the bill says that the program is funded at a certain level, each year of the program. There's absolutely nothing stopping the legislature. I'll give you an example. This year, let's say we leave, $1 million or $2 on the table. There's absolutely nothing stopping the legislature from realizing that, and then in year 2 of the program saying, clearly you don't need all this money, there's not the demand out there that we thought, so we're going to cut the funding by, you know, the $2 million that you didn't use. That's absolutely within their power, and that's something that, of course, I think everyone listening would not want to see happen.
Follow up, Matthew, to that. Does the legislature have to proactively fund the program each year, or if they don't take action, is the previous year level just approved?
I believe because it was written into the original legislation that it's going to be funded at the $6 million level, I believe if the legislature doesn't do anything, that the status quo will remain. So it will be that $6 million level if they don't do anything. That's
Okay.
my understanding.
Thank you very much. All right, this is a question that I know I've gotten quite a bit. Do propane vehicles qualify, or is it just CNG?
Okay, great question. Absolutely, propane vehicles qualify. We love propane-powered vehicles. We love all natural gas-powered vehicles. On the application itself, I will scroll back a couple pages and show you guys the definition of natural gas that the program is using. Of course, I'm going to log back in here. So I'm going to scroll back a couple pages, and if you guys will look at so the type of natural gas fuel, the second box, in that box in the gray heading area, there's the definition of natural gas fuel that the program uses. If you'll read that, you'll see it's a fairly broad interpretation of natural gas fuel. So, you know, CNG, LNG, propane, you know, any kind of natural gas would be eligible for this program. We are natural gas neutral. We don't play favorites. We don't pick winners. So anything you got, we'll take a look at.
Excellent, excellent. Interesting comment. Well, it's a question. Interesting that CNG as well as propane were included. Why not electric equipment as well?
This is, well, so the legislature created a vast majority of the program and gave our agency the authority to fill in the specifics. The program that we were given was already titled the Natural Gas Fuel Fleet Vehicle Rebate, and it already stipulated that the rebate program was for natural gas vehicles. So that was the program that the legislature created and gave to us to administer. We didn't have the power, we didn't have the ability to say, right, also we're going to include these other types of alternative fuels. That just wasn't an option that we had.
And I can report to the person who asked that question that there is a fairly high level statewide group that is looking actively right now at an issue for several proposals or a proposal that might attempt to do that. And I will say that electric vehicles do benefit from the passage of this bill insofar as the old decal that one was required to buy in lieu of gasoline tax is gone. So they do, the electric vehicle, the pure electric, the battery electric vehicle does in fact gain some benefit from the legislation.
That's a great point, Steve. That's so true.
If an entity receives, we've got a few more, and we're going to try and get them in before the 5 minutes. If an entity, before the 5-minute time clock, if an entity receives federal funds under the Congestion Management and Air Quality Improvement Program, CMAQ, for the conversion or upgrade, would those vehicles also be eligible for rebates under this program?
Yeah, so that's similar to the question we had before, and the answer is, well, I'm leaning towards yes. I don't see why they wouldn't be, but of course, you know, every application we have to scrutinize and take a look at all the payment documentation. So I prefer to take it on a case-by-case basis, and if you wanted to go ahead and apply and have us take a look at it, we could do it that way, or if you wanted to connect offline and talk about the details, we could do it that way as well.
Okay, two more. Matt, do you still have time?
Let's do it.
The natural gas fuel fleet vehicle rebate applicant spreadsheet updated on 2/28/14 is in Adobe format. Would you change it to Excel for the ease of searching?
We've had that asked fairly recently. That is something I'm working with our website folks. It shouldn't be a problem. I don't have final say over that, but it shouldn't be a problem, and that ball's already rolling, so I'm hoping to get it changed if we can.
Okay, well, believe it or not, you got through all the questions and answers, and I sincerely appreciate all the attendees actively engaged in this conversation, because this is what we really had hoped for. And again, I'd like to thank you all for participating this afternoon. For those of you who have colleagues who missed this, again, it will be available in a few days on our website, and you, anyone else, or if there's a piece that you want to review, please feel free. I'd like to thank Matthew Arsenault from the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services for taking his time to put this presentation together and to be with us, and for being with us this afternoon. And I would really appreciate it if you would just take a minute, the participants, to fill out this very quick evaluation form. It's not very long at all. It helps us understand what value these things are providing to the community at large. So Stephanie, if there's anything else that you want to say wait a minute. If there's anything else that you want to say in the closing, I'll turn it over to you. If not, we'll bid everyone adieu.
Just one quick thing. We do have our regularly scheduled Cutter webcast tomorrow, presented by Dr. Chen Young Lee, who will be presenting on motorcycle crash trends in Florida. You'll use the same link information to access that webinar that you used to access this one.
Thank you very much again for your help, Stephanie. And will these be natural gas motorcycle crashes or all motorcycles?
I believe all motorcycles.
Okay. Real quick, how long does the rebate program run again? A bus purchase can take up to 18 months, Matt.
The program itself is running through, I think, fiscal year 2019. So if you buy a vehicle and it's taken a while to get there, you can always apply in the coming years of the program.
Okay, and again, thank you very much for taking time to do this. Thanks to the Florida Energy Office and to the Commissioner of Agriculture. Thanks to Cutter, Clean Cities, across the state, and to the U.S. DOE Clean Cities program. Thank you to all the participants, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.